Welcome to Codex, History of Video Games. My name is Skylar Osby.
And I'm Mike Coletta. I think we get lost in the dancing a little bit.
We do, yeah. Now that we can
see
see each other, we're like dancing to the music.
Yeah, well, this is exciting. This is a really exciting time today because we are doing our first ever urban legend.
Oh, we're going to talk about a game that's not real.
A game that's not real. I mean, I'm sure if you talk to some conspiracy theorists, they'll be like, "I have evidence," but all signs point to it not being real. So this game, for all intents and purposes, doesn't exist, but we're gonna go for it anyway. This was suggested by Burger Champ on Discord all the way back in 2021. By the way,
Dang,
that's how long ago.
Going way back. Thanks, Burger
I
Champ.
found it on the list of the game ideas, and we're just gonna go because I've known about it for a while. Do you know anything about this, Tyler?
No. I think maybe I've heard about it before. It probably when Burger Champ suggested it.
Chances are you've seen it pop up in pop culture. So we'll get to that at the end too. But okay, the weird thing about this is even though this game is not real, we can still technically kind of do a grime facts for it, which is fun. So we're going to just pretend it's real. Okay, here we go. So the developer... Oh, go ahead.
I would say we're just pretending that this game is real, and from this point on.
From this point on, we'll get to that too.
Okay,
this is going to be a little bit in the weeds this episode, everybody, but we're going to try our best. Okay, so we're in the weeds, but I got a machete of truth, and we're going to go through it together. Okay,
the machete of truth.
The machete of truth. Here we go. So the developer is Sinislosion, is how you pronounce it, I believe. It's a combination of two German words. We're going to get to that in a bit. The system this was an arcade cabinet. It was apparently, supposedly out there in arcades in 1981. And it was for 1 month, is what the way the legend goes. Okay. The number of copies sold, 0. The game's fake. It's not real. But also it took quarters, so they don't really sell it. It's just kind of the way it is. The genre or gameplay style presumably is an action puzzle game. Just so you're aware, I'll get into what that means a little later, but that's supposedly what it is. All right. So the next step in this is to kind of tell you just the urban legend. Are you ready for the story, Tyler?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Do you want me to say it to you in a spooky voice while I do it?
I would very much appreciate the spooky voice, but not too spooky because I get scared.
Okay, here we go. Okay. So
can I stop you if it's too scary?
Yes, of course you can stop me if it's too scary. Yeah, of course. If you need to go grab Toby and hold Toby during this, it's totally fine. I totally understand. So the year was 1981, 7 years before the oldest host of this podcast was born. Is it Mike or Tyler? Who can say? No one knows. The point is, we are smack dab in the middle of the early 1980s arcade boom. Okay, this is before the crash of 1983. Arcades are popping up all over the country. And in Portland, Oregon, specifically, a particular arcade game has caused strange side effects to its players. All right?
This is good. This is getting good.
After playing the game, players report feeling dizzy. Some claim to have seizures, amnesia, insomnia, night terrors, and hallucinations. All of this, the direct cause of the machine they are playing on. The machine was also said to have an addictive quality to it. There was always a line to play the machine, and it was supposedly located in only 2 backwater arcades in the Portland suburbs, is how
Do these arcades still exist? Probably not.
Probably not.
Because otherwise you'd be able to figure out if this was real or not.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there's a lot of ways to tell that this is not real, and we'll get into that too. Some claimed they saw men in black suits go up to the machines to pull data. What data were they pulling? We'll never know. This is actually a direct quote from coinop.org's article on the machine. Quote, "The bizarre rumors about this game are that it was supposedly developed by some kind of weird military tech offshoot group, used some kind of proprietary behavior modification algorithms developed for the CIA or something," end quote. Or something really makes it seem legit, right? Way more legit. The men in black, by the way, never pulled the quarters out of the machine. They only pulled data. Then, after a month, the game was gone, never to be seen again. The game, Polybius, was lost to time.
What happened to all those quarters? If it was addictive and there was lines to play this game, The quarters must have been overflowing.
Where's the money, Tyler? I know, right? There's
Follow
so
the
many
money
things.
and we'll figure this out.
The money's in the banana stand, or in this case, the Polybius machine. So
Yep.
the good news is you all have nothing to be afraid of, because this is, by all general consensus from the gaming community, historians, most of the internet, this is all complete fiction. There are no boards, no ROMs, no cabinets exist. A lot of people claim they have
That's
this
what they
stuff, but every
that's what
time,
they want you to think.
yeah, every time someone claims they have a Polybius thing, they're like, "Oh, well, then show it to us." And they're like, "Oh, I can't." It's like, okay, all right, sure.
Because
This
they opened it up and it shocked them, and then they got some. I don't know. The creepy pasta is just writing itself
Oh,
through.
it's all creepypasta. In fact, a lot of this is driven from creepypasta. We're going to talk about that too. So this is just another case to me of people looking for attention. But regardless, what has come out of the Polybius urban legend is something like a real thing. So we're going to talk about that today, which I think is kind of cool. It's stories like this that I think naturally excite people about video games, and we all have heard of it, like cursed cartridges,
Mm-hmm.
or
There's some
um,
good Pokemon creepy pasta out there with like cursed
yeah.
cartridges that have ghosts in them and stuff. It's
Yeah,
fun.
there's also, I believe, there was like a rumor of like a dark web game that was like that would take you to hell. It was like a lot of things like that. So
Sweet.
yeah, this is one of those stories that in the end is fake, but did create real games. There are real games named Polybius of people trying to make this. So we're gonna talk about those two today too. Very much in the same way this is like a Slenderman SCP or the Backrooms kind of thing. If you're into those kind of things, hey, guess what? We're right in it right now. Okay. And of course, it's got the men in black, the CIA agents that are secretive or whatever. Are they human or alien? Who knows? So we're just going to dive right into Polybius, though. So we're going to start with the title of the game, because I think that's something that people were probably wondering, like, why is it called Polybius? Right. And we're going to start there because Polybius is a real person, actually.
That's a person's. Oh, yeah. It's like a Greek philosopher or something, right?
Yes, a historical
Okay.
figure. Yeah, we don't do this that often, Tyler. We're gonna actually dive into some real life history and not video game history. Are you ready?
Ooh,
So
let's go. What
most of
video
this,
game history is real life history? Sorry.
yeah, it's
Okay.
true. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I mean, we're not gonna go. We're gonna go more broad than the niche we
Gotcha.
usually stick to. So Polybius was a person born in Common Era 200 BC in Megalopolis, Arcadia. Polybius was a historian that wrote about some ideas that were kind of based in the founding of like the republic and United States, other republics and like democratic republics, including the United States. Like separation of powers is a big thing that Polybius wrote about. And the other thing that he's most known for, and what probably relates more to this today, is the Polybius Square. Have you heard of it before?
I have not.
Okay, the Polybius Square, which it's known for its use in cryptography, is essentially a cipher where you match letters of the alphabet with numbers to create a code. Okay, I am really not prepared, and I'm just gonna share. I'm gonna share my notes just because I have a picture of it in my
Oh,
notes, and I
okay. I
didn't.
just Googled it. I was like, this is great. But yeah, share it. Can you share it to the
Yeah,
screen?
I can. I can.
Oh,
So
that's great.
I'm gonna share a screen.
And
I'm
if
gonna
you're listening in your car, sorry, we'll describe it to you, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm gonna share just these are hey everyone, these are the notes. These are the notes from the podcast. That's okay. But this right here, we're gonna make it really big.
Okay.
That's a Polybius square right there.
Gotcha. Okay.
So for example, so if you were gonna spell Tyler, you'd say T, so 44,
40. Okay.
Y 54. Like you'd go through that.
Okay.
So
So,
you'd
well,
write those numbers out and then use this to crack the code of what was written.
okay. So I'm gonna describe this to folks who can't see
Mm-hmm.
it. It's basically a 5x5 square filled with the alphabet, with I and J taking up the same thing because a 5x5 squares 25 squares. There are 26 letters in the alphabet, and then it's just a matrix of like if you want to do E, that's in the first row. That's the fifth letter of the first row, so that's 15, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does
Yeah,
that make sense? And
exactly.
then I guess you could like scramble these around, and as long as
Mm-hmm.
the person on the other end
Has the
like
cipher, they
knows what
can.
the key is, or yeah, right, exactly, they could like descramble so you're encoding your letters into numbers, basically.
Exactly.
Right?
That's
Okay,
exactly it.
cool.
Yeah. So that's what you're doing. So that's what this is right here. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Everyone's got this. Okay. But so Yeah, actually, the next step I had was that you create the instructions. So yeah, you create a 5x5 square, assign letters, I and J in this case, and the one I showed you are the same, but you can kind of do it however you want it. The game that like so as you can see, like this is a big element of this and why it's called Polybius, because this game is about a cover up from the government, and the person that it's named after is someone who like worked in cryptography and encrypting messages, and like it's all connected, man. Okay, so it's
Okay.
got that kind of vibe to it too. So let's actually talk about the developer of this, Sinislotion, which I mentioned before. This is actually a combination of two German words, but it is not a real German word. So Sine is, again, if my German's wrong, someone please send us an email, but I'm just going to kind of read it as I can. Sine, the first part of it means senses, and lotion, L O with like I think it's an umlaut on top of it, SCHEN, means to extinguish or to delete. So those are the root words. So if you put it together, it's like delete your senses, erase your senses.
Okay.
So you see, it's got even more like clues to being like a spooky game.
Uh-huh.
So the reason a lot of people cite this as being fake is because this feels like a direct translation. Like this is not a German word. For example, I'm going to use Spanish. If you wanted to say game time in Spanish, you would say tiempo de juego, right? Time
Sure.
of game. That's how
Right.
it's
That's
written
how
in
they would say
Spanish.
that. Yeah.
You wouldn't just say juego tiempo and put it all together in one word.
Yeah.
That's
That
not
is
how it
in
works.
Spanish. That doesn't make sense. Like that's a weird way to say that.
Exactly. And that's kind of what this Sinislotion word is. It
Gotcha.
doesn't
You're like
make a lot of sense.
somebody picked these words that doesn't actually know how German works.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And so, okay, I should mention at this point too, I have two sources I'm using for this. The first source is that coinop.com or coinop.org article, the website that has this information on it from their archive of arcade games. Okay. Here's the other problem with it, though. That very coin op article is in a documentary I watched on YouTube called Polybius, and it's by a YouTuber named Ahoy. And I know like some people get really weird on this podcast when I mention like a YouTube video and using that as a source, but this person did their research. Like it's crazy. And I'm not going to discuss the whole documentary because they actually kind of may have found out where the hoax originated, essentially. Like it's a really good documentary. Because do you ever watch a documentary, Tyler, on like HBO or Hulu, and there's no answer in the end? It's like a
Yeah.
mystery still.
Mm-hmm.
This person did so much research on Polybius that they found out possibly where it first began.
Oh, so you get kind
And
of some answers.
yeah, and where it first began is coinop.org, the article I was initially using. So I was using this article and then I watched the documentary. I'm like, wait a second. So there's a whole thing about it. I'm not going to go super into the documentary too much because I think you should watch it if you're really interested in this. And like, we're probably going to cover things more from the first half of the documentary, not the latter half where they try to find out where it came from. I'll certainly kind of sum it up as like in a really easy way, but I'm not going to mention any of the people he claims that made this, mostly because it's also still speculation. Like they're never gonna admit to making this up. So
Mm-hmm.
the bottom line is for the documentary that this direct translation they presume to be like more of a machine translation of Sinislotion, but poorly. But again, it's just speculation. So all we know for sure though is there is no record of Sinislotion as a business anywhere, it seems, in the late 70s, early 80s. So this
Okay.
is like pretty much confirmed to be a made up company. Like it's not a real
Yeah.
company.
Which makes sense if the game, like at this point, nobody is actually talking about this game like it exists and is lost. Now we're just like meta commentary on where did the rumor come from? Is that
Mm-hmm.
okay?
That's
So
kind
like,
of where it's
it's not
at.
weird
Yeah.
that the company doesn't exist. That
Yeah,
makes
it's not
total
weird
sense. Yeah.
because and everything is based off this screenshot too, by the way. The screenshot that has like the Polybius home screen on it, like the big title.
Mm-hmm.
It's got like the insert one credits and it says 1981 Sinislotion underneath it. But that screenshot itself could be made up. Like we just don't know
I
if
mean,
it's
it must be. It couldn't
I
have
mean,
come
yeah,
from.
it's must be. So again, there's so many things with it that are like just iffy to the point where it doesn't seem real. So we're going to talk about the next section I have is called evidence of the 1981 game in media. So, like I said, I'm watching that YouTube essay. It's a video essay documentary called Polybius, the video game that doesn't exist. It's by the YouTuber Ahoy. It's my primary source for this whole thing. He did so much researching into it that it's going to get lost in the weeds here, but this I'm kind of going to sum up what he said. Essentially, Polybius, in multiple book, newspaper, internet, video game magazine searches from 1980 to 2000, didn't pull up anything from a Polybius arcade game. Every mention of it was this Greek philosopher and historian that we discussed before. That it's kind of weird too that like it doesn't pop up. Like something should have come up. You know
If
what I
this were
mean?
a real thing,
If
there
this
should
was a
be
real
some.
thing, yeah, there should be newspaper articles about kids getting sick in Portland, right? By playing this
Yeah,
video game. That sounds like something that would be in a Portland newspaper, right? And
absolutely.
it's just not there. He goes so far deep. Like he uses the Wayback Machine, which I use a lot sometimes, especially on like Wikipedia footnotes when I'm trying to dig a little deeper and like look at it. A lot of stuff I look at is through the Wayback Machine because so much of it's gone, you know. But he also uses like paid internet searches too, like paid internet archives, and doesn't find anything for this. Again, none of it is set in stone, and I'm trying to find out like how urban legends begin is like a whole other area of discussion for like a podcast that is way different than ours. Like I don't want to get into like urban legends and like conspiracy theories. That's not really what we're into. We just want to focus on this one
I
right
just want
now.
to talk about the video game urban legend and
Exactly. We'll
conspiracy
do
theory.
more like I really want to do episode on Slender Man because I think that's a
Mm,
cool thing that was like a cultural thing that
hmm.
became a video game thing. And I think that's a really cool way to do it. But the conclusion of this thing is that if this was an arcade game that really existed in 1981, there would be evidence of it. Some magazine would have covered it. There would have been a newspaper article about Achilles getting sick, like I said before. There would be something. And of course, as people do, you can deep dive into the government conspiracy land, but we're not going to do that. This is just kind of a discussion of conspiracy theories, but the reason that people believe them, I feel like, is they make the world feel more explainable and
Hmm.
exciting, when in reality, the answer is usually much more boring.
Yeah, there
And
is no plan. It's like it's comforting to think that like if things are going wrong, there's somebody in control of it, right? Because it's if things are going wrong and no one's in control of it, that just feels worse. So
yeah,
people like to like sort of invent reasons for things when it's like, you know what, the true answer is probably nobody's doing anything. It's
exactly.
just
Yeah.
whatever happened is bad luck or
Or in this
whatever.
case, it was creepypasta that was made up on the internet and someone spread a rumor and they're just trying to make something go for it. We're going
Yeah,
to get into that in a little bit. But the the big thing I want to say here, because I mean, yeah, people believe in conspiracy theories because I mean, there have been some, right? Like
sure.
MK Ultra is like a
Hmm.
real, turned out to be a real thing that people were saying for a long time. But it just, we don't, there's no evidence for this. This is not a real game. I mean, please, somebody break out a Polybius board and prove me wrong. I would love that. We could do a whole new episode on how wrong I was. But as far as I can tell, there is nothing real about this. But that said, there are games. There are real life Polybius games that have been made after the fact to replicate this. And we're going to go over three of them today. The
Ooh.
first one, not really a game. It's actually it's more of a joke. Um, the idea of Polybius alone, though, like it's spawned so many games, and some of them are in art themselves, and trying to nail the idea of like a propaganda game, and some of them do it very well. So the first one we're going to talk about is in April 2004. There was a game, and I'm using the in quotes there, that released on gooddealgames.com. If that's not an early 2000s website, I don't know what
Seems
is.
legit.
Yeah. There is a warning before the game starts that it says it will cause seizures and hurt you. So it's kind of scary. Like you get a big scary Windows pop up.
Oh, it says it will cause them.
Yeah. And then
Oh,
you
because like lots of games
open.
will come up and be like, hey, if you're sensitive to things like this could be bad,
Mm,
which is true. And like some people have problems with that. But like this one is like, no, this will happen to you.
yeah. It's kind of scary, right? Spooky. And
Yeah.
then you open the game and the title screen pops up. And then the minute you hit play, the game crashes and it says it's an April Fool's joke.
Hmm.
So that's the first one. And the reason I'm including that, I know it's not a game, but it did open and you could download it. So it felt like a game, right? And it just crashes. And it's kind of a game within itself that it's crashing and fooling you in a trick. The second game, though, is actually a game. Speculating specifically on what the game would have been like, this might be my favorite version. The site it comes from is aptly named Cineslotion.com. It was released in 2007 by a group of freeware arcade developers, Rogue Synapse. Fun fact, you can still play this game. I have played this game. I downloaded it and it worked just after installing like one direct play file or something like that. It worked. I mean, hey, the game is freeware and it's a fun project by a team of 6 people. But I will say, like, if you're worried about downloading files, I have no, this is a disclaimer. I don't know how sketchy it is. I downloaded it and I played it and it worked fine. You download it at your own risk. Okay. I'll just say that right now. But here are the instructions directly from the README file of the game. I just wanted to read these off to you to explain what the game looks like. So you use left, right, up, down to maneuver your ship. This looks very much like a sideways version of like Space Invaders, kind of.
Okay.
And your ship is pointing towards a circle of enemies, and this interior circle and an exterior circle. And the exterior is just like random polygon shapes. The interior has numbers in it. And occasionally, what shoots out of the middle of the circle is a like little polygon with a number. And if you shoot that and it matches a number in the middle, that goes away. And you essentially unlock the next level. And it's numbers and a circle and shooting. And it's kind of like a Polybius square in a little
Okay.
bit.
Does it spell out a message?
It might. I didn't like play that much to know, but I didn't see like not all of them were double digits though. Some of them were like 6s, and so it would be
okay.
cool.
And every letter in a Polybius square is a double digit, right?
Usually, yes, because you have to have the column and the row. I'm not going to
Yeah.
say always because I'm not entirely certain, but from what I can tell from the basic Polybius square, it is like one column number and a row number, so it would be 2 digits. The other thing about this is you also have like polygons that shoot out that can increase your shields, and there's missiles that shoot out that can deplete your shields. So there's like a multiple kind of other angle to it too. So you're trying to shoot the numbers that come out that match the middle circle to unlock it to move to the next level. Because once all the numbers in the middle circle are gone, then you go on to the next level. But scoring is based on enemies killed, reducing base number and level change. The largest score increases are with divisible numbers, especially square root. So it's kind of a math game in a way. At higher levels, the base shoots a paralysis beam, which may briefly immobilize the player. This occurs when all arms of the base align. Ooh, so it's pretty cool. It's like very much a newer arcade game in that way.
Okay.
So you have like your little ship, like you would in like Galaga or Space Invaders. It's on the side of the screen. That's the important part. The circle's on the left, and you need to rotate the circle. That's how you move side to side, as the circle actually rotates. Or you can go forward or backward to dodge. It's actually really kind of hard because I gave it a go. And I feel like this is one of those games that would have benefited from a joystick instead of a controller, or not instead of a mouse and keyboard. That's what I played it on. Because when you rotate the map with the left or right keys, but you move forward and backward with the up and down keys, it feels like because your ship is sideways, you should move forward and backward with the left and right keys.
Yeah.
It should be reversed, it feels like.
Yeah.
But the graphics look really good. And the one thing about this game that I was like struck by was the music and the sound was really good. Like the music kind of slaps. Like I would recommend people go on YouTube and look up this Polybius game from 2007. If you don't want to play it, you don't want to download it, I totally get that. It's from a free website online, but go to YouTube and watch a video of it. That'll definitely be worth it.
And the music may be mind controlling. You don't know.
Maybe it is very like electronic. It feels kind of like it's trying to get to you. The other thing that's more spooky, scary propaganda-y, and they included this in the game, is they actually have phrases that flash on the screen in giant text, but one frame. So you'll be playing it and a screen will flash and you can't really read it. But if you pause it, it has phrases like be normal or stay asleep. in it. It's kind of
Just like really cryptic. Like, I don't know what this
mm-hmm.
means. Yeah. Oh, that's scary and fun.
It is, yeah. So again, this is what
Be
some people
normal.
speculate the game would have been like if it was actually like existed based on the creepy pasta that's written on the internet. But what I think it's just cool that these people came together and they made a game and they made like a fun arcade game that's like kind of like could be Polybius. This is what it could have been in
Yeah,
a way.
that's cool. And that
Uh,
sounds like that would have been fun to play like in those days too, like the early like arcade days. Because I think 82, I want to say, is when Space Invaders came out. So this would have predated that. I could be wrong, but I'm gonna Google that now.
yeah, go ahead and Google it. But yeah, I just think it's a really cool idea.
1978. Wow, I was way off.
So yeah,
Samsonite. I was way off.
this is like definitely a game though that if you're into old arcade games, give it a try or at least watch a YouTube video of it because it's very different and it's just really well done. The best part is when you read the README file, they're like, hey, full on. This is a parody of what we think the game could have been. Like, we have all these creepy notes up front, but it's not
It's a joke
creepy.
though.
Yeah, it's a joke. And also, when you start the game too, it says like synapse on, and it has like different messages that pop up that say okay, okay, like making it look like it's setting up some sort of test too.
Okay.
I forgot to include that in my
It's
notes.
booting up the mind control.
Yeah, exactly. Your
Yeah.
mind's about to be controlled. It's a cool game though. I actually really thought it was neat, and I would give it another go. I just feel like I want to see if I can keybind it differently, but it's really fun. The last game we'll discuss, we're going to discuss this very briefly because it came out on PSVR, PS4, and Steam on December 21st, 2018. And the game title is Polybius. It was created by Llamasoft Limited, who is actually one man, Jeff Minter. And I don't know if you heard of the name Jeff Minter before. Have you heard of that, Tyler?
I feel like I've heard of Llamasoft before.
Yeah. Well, Minter is a prolific video game developer who started making games in 1981 and still makes them today.
Nice.
The game itself is like an endless runner, and I will only describe it as an LSD fever dream. So
And he made it in reference to this, right?
yes,
It is. Okay. It's not just like coincidentally also called Polybius. Okay.
So you're like endless running on like a cylinder that looks like it's rotating in space, and there's just like all sorts of multicolored shapes and objects flying towards you. There's cows that jump around. It's pretty nuts, and it's got this techno beat soundtrack to it. If you've played this game, send us an email. I want to hear your thoughts on it. I don't have a PlayStation or a PSVR, so I couldn't play the game.
Is it
But
only VR?
it's VR and PS4, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just never played it, but it looks really cool. And apparently, this is kind of like Jeff Minter's style. Is this like hippie fever dream trance game? Kind of is what he goes for. So it looks really cool though. It's definitely one of those things that I think it would be fun to play in VR because it seems very like you're just moving things. It seems very rhythmic. You know, it's got that rhythmic state to it, and then you hear the music and you're like the lights and sounds. It's a cool looking game. I think personally, the one that's the most close to what we're talking about today is definitely the game in the middle I mentioned by Rogue Synapse. Like that's the one that if you were going to play one of these games, give this one a go for sure.
Gotcha. I'm trying to find a video of it now. Polybius Rogue Synapse.
Yeah. And Polybius in other areas of pop culture, we're just going to go right into it. So the arcade game pops up in the background of The Simpsons, The Goldbergs, that sitcom, a lot of comic books, and most recently, I spotted it in the Loki television show on Disney Plus.
That's why I think it sounds familiar to me because I feel like I saw it there too, and I was like, I'm not. Yeah, okay, that sounds familiar because I just watched Loki.
Yeah, so Loki, it pops up in the background in like the area of like things that are forgotten and lost in time.
Yeah,
and it's in like the background shot of like one of the other Loki's like bases or camps in that area at the end of time.
Yeah. It's probably right next to the Sinbad movie Shazam that everybody remembers but doesn't actually exist.
Really?
Yeah, it's a Mandela effect.
That's so funny. I never knew about that, but I definitely thought if you'd have told me there was a movie called Shazam with Sinbad, I would have thought it's real.
Yeah, I don't know if that's actually in Loki, but it would have been funny if that was there. Everybody's thinking the movie you're thinking of when you think of Shazam, you're thinking of the movie Kazam with Shaq.
Oh yeah,
that's the movie you're thinking of. But there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, that's Sinbad movie with that was called Shazam, where he was a genie, right? Nope,
Nope, doesn't exist.
doesn't
Not
exist. Never
real.
did.
This is so funny. So there were also some short films on YouTube that are based on the Polybius myth. And if you're curious, I wrote down a couple different titles. Is Polybius a retro short film? I watched this one. It's very campy and silly. It's all right. Then there's one on Brad Patullo's YouTube channel that's like an animated short about Polybius. I didn't watch that one. There's a lot of stuff. Again, and there's also like numerous online posts about Polybius, people claiming to be a person that like programmed Polybius. All those stories get like debunked, but they're like in the moment it's fun because they're like writing. Again, it's like SCP. They're doing these creative writing exercises that are actually ending up being like pretty cool, but they're all not
Mhm.
real. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but it is still fun to read them because it's creative, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
if you're interested in the non-video gaming side of things, that documentary on YouTube by Ahoy that I mentioned is a great place to start because he goes into like every pop culture thingy that you can think of. So that's on there too. So just to like answer the question, I kind of wanted to save this for the end. Where did Polybius come from? And that's the central focus of the documentary. They have their suspects and do a lot of deep diving that Ahoy does into the documentary about Polybius. And what he determines is Polybius is a modern myth from around the year 2000. I'm not going to go into specifics here because we can't really ever prove it. All signs point to the game being fake, and we have an idea. Like there is a person that we like Ahoy believes, and it has a lot of convincing evidence that created Polybius for the reason of trying to get hits on their website. Like that's one of the
Sounds like
reasons.
it worked. I mean, here we are 23, 24 years later. We're
Yeah,
still talking about it.
exactly. And the reason I'm not going to mention that person's name is because they're never going to confess to it, probably. Like they'll never admit they did it.
Mhm.
But if you want to know their name and you want to get more into that accusatory, like who did this, I would watch that YouTube documentary because they get into it. Like this, like I'm impressed with the amount of research that the Ahoy YouTuber does in their video. It's a lot to get this to where they were. But what we've narrowed down is the Polybius myth originated on that coinop.org website I was initially using as a source in around the year 2000, like in June of 2000. That's when
Okay.
it first appears. But there's kind of a red herring at the bottom that says this was first published in 1998 when really there's no like Wayback Machine evidence or Internet Archive to show that. That doesn't mean it's not true. We just can't go back that far.
Yeah,
But
but it
the
does it lends a little bit of credibility to it, I feel like, or yeah, it's like to be like, hey, well, this was posted before, even if it was this is the first time anybody ever posted about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like and they claim that there is another website that had it on there, but every time the person in the documentary Ahoy looks at it, they don't see anything in that. Like it's this is the earliest thing, and then he also actually gets into it and talks to this guy that he's accusing of it, and like things get and talks about his background and things like make more sense. Like especially like the German word being broken and not being like an actual German word. Like
Mm-hmm.
again, we're and it's all in the weeds and it's all speculation, but that's what conspiracy theories are. You know what? Burger Champ, you brought this upon us. Okay, this is all Burger Champ's thing. If you don't like it, then just know that Burger Champ is the reason I was sitting there like Charlie from Always Sunny in Philadelphia this week with the yarn board behind me trying to figure out this thing together. Okay.
Pepe Sylvia.
Yep. It's me trying to figure it out. So, all right. The last thing I want to talk about today with Polybius, this is a shorter episode today, but we got into it, I feel like. I'm going to call this a philosophical quandary because the reason I wanted to talk about this, and now, by the way, you should take off your tinfoil hat if you're wearing one for the conspiracy theory and put on a philosopher beret.
Okay.
Tyler, just
What
so
if
you know.
my philosopher beret is made out of tinfoil?
That's fine. That's okay.
Okay.
I'll allow it.
Okay.
This game is a hoax. However, as we've talked about earlier, there have been multiple real games inspired by it. There's been numerous like short films online, creepy pasta written all about Polybius. So I don't think it's fair to call the game fake anymore. I think fake or a hoax is like the wrong way to put it because it's the same way that Slender Man started as an urban legend and built itself into video games through like characters directly or indirectly inspired by it. Like I think about like the Enderman in Minecraft is from Slenderman, right? Like it's just the
Hmm.
same thing. I think we're kind of talking about the act of creation in art and what's real and what's not. And I think that Polybius has made itself real.
It sort of manifested itself from nothing. This is kind of like I'm gonna draw a little connection here to an older
Mm-hmm,
episode of ours where we talked about Persona 2. Remember the
mm-hmm.
rumors system in that game? How when the rumors start going around, those things start to manifest, and you can sort of like pick and choose which rumors you choose to perpetuate in that game. And this is like kind of like that, right? Like it exists now because there was a rumor about it. Not the rumor didn't happen because the game existed. It's the other way around, right? It has
Exactly.
manifested itself, which
It's
is very
it's
funny.
it's funny and it's kind of beautiful in a way. Like
Yeah.
they've made someone made up something in the year 2000 that inspired so many people that there have been short films, new like so many posts, online forums written, real video games created in its likeness that for our sake I think it's safe to say it's real now. It's made itself real. So Polybius, to conclude, in the context of a 1981 game that's a CIA experiment to mold the minds of Oregon's teenagers, is a hoax. But the multiple Polybius games, references in pop culture, internet stories, and videos are all very real and have kept it alive and well. And that's why I wanted to talk about it today, because I think it's just so fun, right?
I love that. That's
That
fun. And now
like
we talk about how it doesn't exist, and we're trying to get to the bottom of where the rumors started. Not nobody's out here like actually trying to find a Polybius machine anymore. It's pretty well understood at this point, right, that it doesn't exist.
yeah, I
We
mean,
are very interested in the rumor itself.
exactly. And there's so many examples of people being like, this is a Polybius board, and they put something up online that has like a chip on it that has Polybius, like the text photoshopped on the front of it. And we're like, okay, it's not a real thing. There's pictures of arcade cabinets that people claim are real Polybius machines, and you open them up and like, no, this is a Miss Pac-Man cabinet. You just painted it over and did all this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
And
was
there's
gonna
no
post a
board.
picture, but then the government showed up at my house and took everything.
Exactly. You know, it's one of those things that it's the rumor mill of it, the hoax part of it, very debunked. But I think we should all be focusing instead on the other cool art that came out of it.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. We love community driven stuff here on the
Yeah.
podcast.
Thanks for bringing that, Mike.
Yeah, well, thank you for listening to it, and everyone can take their tinfoil hats off now. And thank you, Burger Champ, for recommending it.
Love it.
So that's good. Now, Tyler, what you been playing?
Ooh, so I think maybe I said this on the podcast before, but I definitely said it in real life and thought it. I was like, I am gonna wait until I finish Persona 3 before I start up Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't do that. I bought the
Nice.
game and I've been playing. I've got about 6 hours in now, 6.5 hours in to it, and I am having a great time. The open world is really fun. It's got a little bit of the Ubisoft like, oh, go get the towers, and then it puts more icons on your map, and then you go to all the icons and you do the thing at the thing. But I don't know. I just love it. I love being in this world again with my friends from Final Fantasy 7, and I'm having a good time with it. I think the combat system it looks like it could be simple, and sometimes it is like when you're just fighting trash enemies, you can just mash square, like that's fine. But it gets a lot deeper. Like when you get to the harder content, you really have to sort of min max and like tweak your build and stuff. I do appreciate the because it has like skill trees and like that, all that kind of stuff. I do appreciate this is a more modern thing that games do these days, where you can just respec for free, where
Ooh,
it's
I
like
love that.
you earn your points, and then you spend them on the things, and then if you decide, oh, actually I kind of want to try a whole new play style and I want to do a different build, you just respec for free. That's fine. I feel like older games didn't really do that. It was just like, well, you want more things, either you can't get them, you start over, like turn the game off and start over, or you can unlock everything. And so if you want to do different stuff, you just have to like grind out the points for it. Which I also appreciate that. I like being able to get everything in a game too. So I do appreciate that, but I think it's cool that it lets you respec. There's a couple other like quality of life things similar to that, like auto saves, all that kind of stuff. Like dying is not go back to your last save from 6 hours ago, which can be very frustrating in older JRPGs. So yeah, I'm loving it. I'm having a good time. I am very excited for the next part that will come out whenever it comes out. And then I think it's going to be really cool. What I think they'll do after they come out with the third part, it's probably a couple years later, they'll put all 3 games together as like one game. It'll be like one big 200-hour Final Fantasy VII. That's my dream.
Nice.
But yeah, having fun with that. Been playing a little bit of Helldivers with you. Helldivers 2. We're
Yeah,
having fun.
Helldivers
Spreading
2.
democracy and liberty.
For Super Earth.
Yeah, for Super Earth. We're doing our part. It's fun shooting the bad
It's
bad
ridiculous.
bugs. And
It's so fun.
yeah, you're a lot further along in it than I am. But
I am a sergeant now.
Oh, that's great.
Thank
I'm still learning.
You're a cadet.
I'm a cadet, and then I think I only have the things you get from the start. I haven't really unlocked anything yet, but I'm having fun with it. And it's competing for time with Final Fantasy, which means I don't play it as much as I would
get you.
otherwise.
No, and we respect it. We respect Tyler. Now, I just want you to know it is treason in the eyes of Super Earth.
I
You're playing
understand.
Final Fantasy VII.
Punishable by death.
Yes, as long as you understand that, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I understand, and I'm willing to take the risk, but I'm having a good time. I also put a little bit more time into Persona 3, but not a ton because Final Fantasy is now my life. So that's it. What have you been playing?
Job.
Yep.
I've been playing a lot of Helldivers 2. I'm obsessed with Helldivers 2. I have not played a game with this amazing of a progression system in a long time. It's giving me early Call of Duty vibes as far as you progress in the game by playing the game. Crazy idea. I know. Pretty nutty.
That's wild.
Also, when I boot up the game, it doesn't ask me to buy something with real money, which is also pretty crazy and nutty when you think about it.
These days, that kind of is.
There's a premium currency, but that premium currency can be found in missions as well. So you never really have to pay money. All in all, Helldivers 2 is a game that respects players more than any game I've played probably in the last decade. Like it's just amazing. And it's not only that, there's like a community aspect of it too. Like when I play, I'll leave my party open in public. And when we get a random person playing with us, it's fine. They're not toxic. They play the objective. They just play the game with us. And it's pretty nutty. Like I've had one experience where a guy was getting mad at us, but to be fair to us, he was walking into our bombs every time. Like we threw a bomb, it makes a giant like thing shoot up in the sky, so you know a bomb's coming down, and he would just die every time.
And then he'd be like, "How could you do this to me?"
He'd be like, "You guys are killing me right now," and we're like, "Man, just don't walk where the mortars are. I don't know what to tell you."
Very easy to tell where they're gonna be.
Yeah, he was like a newer guy. You could tell he was like new with the game too. And I'm like, I don't know how to explain this to you, bud, but there's friendly fire, and that's what makes the game so funny. The first game I went in, our friend Aaron blew me up, and I laughed super hard because it's so funny. It's just such a funny game. If you don't know Helldivers, the idea of it is that you are a random soldier in Super Earth and you are extremely expendable. So when you die, your character isn't respawned. They just get another Helldiver to come down and replace them. And then you play as that one. So when your character comes in, your voice can change and be different. And you pick your body type as like slim or buff, and that's it. And then you just go. So sometimes you come down and you have like a high pitched voice, you have a low pitched voice, you have a man's voice, a woman's voice, whatever. It doesn't matter. And you just play. And that's so funny to me. And that's also what builds up some of like the comedy too, is they have like propaganda videos in the game.
Yeah.
And then you're fighting 2 different factions. You're fighting the automatons, or you're fighting the bugs, like I forget what I want to call them arachnids, because it's pretty much just Starship Troopers, but that is not correct. And
they remind me of antlions from Half-Life 2.
Yeah, they look a lot like, and which also, like when I played Half-Life 2, I was like, that looks like the bugs from Starship Troopers. So it's like they're all kind of connected. But it's such a game. It's the Starship Troopers game I wanted as a kid. That's what this is. It's 4-person co-op play. There's no PvP. You drop in, you do a mission. The missions change enough. The worlds, the planets have varieties of environments, so they're kind of different in that way too. And as you ramp up that difficulty, newer, more challenging enemies start to appear. So I played a challenging match with our friend Aaron, and invisible bugs appear, like bugs that can cloak themselves. And you're just like, what kill? And it gets like legitimately spooky and scary. And you got to like work as a team to kill these bugs before they kill you. It's really fun. I never played the original Helldivers, and the original Helldivers was a twin stick shooter that came out on PlayStation, and it has a strong community. Like, it has a community still.
Yeah,
Still
people
play
really
the
loved that game.
yeah, and in that game there are 3 factions. So the rumor mill is that they are going to add the 3rd faction hopefully at some point, which is more like a actual aliens that have like technologically advanced aliens.
Mm.
And then they're also going to add mechs into the game soon, which like mech suits you bring down that you
Like
just your guy,
Titanfall?
yeah, like your guy walks in and steps into them and then you're a
Ooh,
mech, and I'm like, that's really cool.
that
So
sounds fun.
I'm gushing over Helldivers 2, as you can tell over the last 3 minutes, but I've also been playing and almost close to beating. I'm on the final boss. I'm in Hollow Knight. I've been playing a lot of Hollow Knight. So I'm on the last boss. The Hollow Knight, spoilers, is the last boss. And I if I fight him, I get the bad ending because I haven't done everything. So I
Mm.
think I'm gonna fight him once, get that ending, go do another thing, fight him again, go do another thing, fight him again until I get like the good ending, quote unquote.
Okay.
But I'm loving it. It's weird because like Helldivers 2 has bugs. Hollow Knight, you're playing as a bug. I'm listening to a audiobook called Children of Time that's about spiders that get a nanovirus that like becomes smart and intelligent like humans essentially. I'm having a bug
That
filled
sounds
week.
terrifying.
Oh, it's a great book so far. I mean, I haven't finished it yet. I was on the Kindle library book,
Mhm.
ran out of the library subscription, so I lost like my progress. I was halfway through. I bought the Audible version. It picked up where I left off,
Nice.
which is pretty cool. So I've been listening to that on like car rides and stuff. So yeah, it's a pretty good book. I mean, I know we have some readers in our listenership, so maybe they've read Children of Time. But with that, I think that's gonna be it for today, right, Tyler? I think we
I
nailed
think
it.
so.
We're gonna save all our emails, by the way, for a mailbag episode soon. Next week we have a guest. Maybe the week after we do a mailbag. So we're gonna have our first ever recurring guest,
True.
which is exciting.
Who could it be? I don't know if we've told people or not.
No,
Who
we
could
haven't
it
told.
be?
We won't tell anyone. We'll make it a secret. It'll be a surprise.
I,
So
I think if you go back and listen to some of our old guests, we may have invited this person back to talk about their other thing that they did. So
it's gonna get exciting. So
go
we'll
listen
have
to old episodes again.
yeah, do it. So we'll if we sound so threatening. Yeah, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
We're like bullying people into listening to the podcast. So we'll be back next week with them. We'll do a mailbag the week after that. If you want to send us an email, you can do that at codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. You can also go to codexpodcast.net. That has all our links on it. It's got our Instagram, our Discord. You can send us a contact form email through there. It's got our Trello board so you can see what Tyler and I are playing.
Oh, I need to update mine. Actually, I don't think it has Final Fantasy on it.
Ooh, good. We could do that after the podcast. And with that, Tyler, would you like to say goodbye to everybody?
Sure. Goodbye, everybody.